Right, hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video, and today we're going to be reviewing Mulholland Drive, which is a 2001 film narrated by David Lynch and stars Naomi Watts, Laura Harring and Justin Theroux. And yes, I would probably say this is one of the best movies of all time, if not the best. It's so great, it is so amazing, and it's definitely one of the best made films of all time. I don't know how I would put it on my favourites. It'd definitely be up there, very close. But in terms of actually best, like best made, just like The Godfather, I put it in probably the top 3 best movies of all time. This film is so well made. It's so perfect in every way. David Lynch this is his best film in my opinion. It was just amazing. It really was. And I feel like this film is kind of divisive in terms of fans. So if you watch this film, you'll either love it or you'll hate it. If you like David Lynch films, then you'll probably love this movie. I know a lot of people do love this movie. It was actually ranked by BBC as the best film of the 21st century. And in terms of best, not my favourite, I would agree. This film is just perfect in every single way. And it's just everything to do with it. It isn't a conventional movie. It doesn't follow the rules of past films, past cinema. It just does its own thing. And I know it's not for everyone, because it doesn't, follow the same structure. It's not in order. It doesn't really make sense at parts. There's a lot of characters that are just kind of thrown in there, and scenes that just kind of happen and then don't touch on them again for like the rest of the movie. And it's a very long film. It's 2.5 hours. And it's very surreal. It kind of feels like a nightmare, like a really dark dream. And my interpretation of the film is that the first half is what Naomi Watts wishes would happen, and the second half is the reality. But the film is very open to interpretation. It's very ambiguous. It's very like arty, in a sense, but it's less arty than some of Lynch's other films, such as Eraserhead. This one does have a story, and I do enjoy the story of this film. It's basically that Naomi Watts is an actress. She moves to Los Angeles in search of, fame. And then she meets this woman, Laura Harring, who doesn't remember anything. She's been in a car crash. And she just remembers this place, Mulholland Drive, which is a street in Los Angeles. And it's kind of their stories go on, and it's mixed with other stories and different random characters and plot lines and stuff for Justin Theroux's director of a movie. And I won't spoil too much of it. This is a spoiler-free review. But basically, it's about Naomi Watts' nightmare for 2.5 hours, and it's so well done. Every single scene can be interpreted in different ways. If you watch one scene, you'll be like, oh, so that happened, and someone else will be, actually, I think it meant this instead. And like I said, it won't be for everyone. If you do like David Lynch films, you'll probably love this movie, because David Lynch is a very divisive director, because a lot of his films they're basically his own genre, Lynchian type films, because he's a bit of a madman, to be honest. He's weird, he's very strange, but to me, I love him. I think he's so interesting, and him as a character as well, not just as a director. He's a great director, and I am actually just ordered a box set of all of his films, so I will be reviewing all of them, probably within the next month or so. Hopefully before Christmas anyway, and that's all 10. I'm not sure about the Straight Story though. I don't think I've got the Straight Story on DVD, but I'll find a way to watch it, and then I'll review all 10. This film Mulholland Drive is just a blend of all different genres. It's a horror, it's a thriller, it's a drama, it's a romance between Laura Harring and Naomi Watts, and none of them are normal genres either. It's not a conventional horror movie. It's got like underlying themes of horror, and certain scenes are just downright terrifying. The romance isn't, how you'd expect a romance to go. It just very breaks up very abruptly during certain parts, and it gets extreme at some parts, and it just drips again. And it was Lynch wanted to make his own film exactly how he envisioned it, and he did that, and it was actually meant to be a TV series, and it was a failed pilot because the producers messing around and stuff, so he made it into a feature film, and that means that some scenes and characters have no relevance to the rest of the movie because they were probably going to be used later on in the series. And I love the fact that they did that. A lot of people might be put off when they're like, why is this cowboy here? Why is there an entire scene devoted to this diner? When it's only mentioned once again right near the end. But for me, I really liked it, and if you are a fan of David Lynch, which I'm presuming you are if you watch the movie, you'll probably like it too, so I think that was really cool as well. I think that the actual acting in this film was some of the best acting of all time. Naomi Watts in this movie is probably one of the best performances ever, and this is the film that made me love Naomi Watts. I think she's one of the best actresses, alongside I think Uma Thurman and Sigourney Weaver are my 3 favourite. They're my trio. And if I was to make a film, I'd just have all 3 of them in it in 3 really different roles. So I think Naomi Watts in this film was amazing too. Laura Harring was really good as well, and Justin Theroux was really good. I haven't really seen those two in much films either. Whereas I've seen Naomi Watts in a lot of movies. these two were new to me, so I did enjoy them in the movie too. And there's a few scenes that come to mind when I think of Mulholland Drive. There's the famous diner scene, which is the most horrorist version of all the scenes, and it's about these two guys who go to a diner, and one of them's telling the other one about a nightmare he had, which concerns the diner and this homeless guy who lives at the back of it. And I'm sure you'll have seen something on YouTube regarding it, 'cause it's like classed as like the best jump scare of all time or something. But David Lynch does this perfectly. This one scene, it has so much tension and build up, and it's so scary just seeing this guy's kind of emotion when he's talking about his nightmare. He seems so afraid, and the actual build up to when they're walking around the back of the diner, that was such a perfect scene. And you could probably look at it on YouTube, it won't spoil anything. So it's only like a 5-minute scene, but it's so well crafted. And the acting as well, I didn't know the actors really from the scene either. I've seen them in a few things, I think. But that scene just, again, was perfectly acted. And I think David Lynch knows how he wants the actors to act, if that kind of makes sense. And I feel like he brings the best out of certain actors. Because certain actors I might see in other films be like, well, that wasn't that good. But David Lynch kind of knows exactly what he wants with the scene. And he will get it done, because he's a painter, really. He paints a scene, if it's not how he wants it, he will change it to get it to perfection. A lot like Stanley Kubrick in a way. So this film was just absolutely perfect. And another movie scene from this, which I think was even better than the diner scene, is the scene when Naomi Watts goes in for like an acting audition, and she's got to do a scene with this guy, and she like rehearsed for the scene earlier on with Laura Harring, and it was kind of comedic in a certain way, because she was like laughing about it. But then in this scene with this guy in the actual audition, it was so dark and like intense when they were talking to each other. Like the everything just came into it, like all the passion and the tension, and it was just dark and unnerving to watch. It was uncomfortable, really, because these two actors just snapped completely. It was one of the best acting performances in a scene I've ever seen from Naomi Watts, and the other guy as well, who I haven't seen him much before either. Both of them just brought out the best acting ever, really, and it was so intense seeing these two actors just kind of talk, really. They were just talking, and because you'd seen it earlier on and you know how it was meant to go, as soon as she changes her voice, you were like, right, what's going on here? So I think that scene was amazing. It's one of the best movie scenes ever. And Naomi Watts should have won an Oscar for this movie. She didn't even get nominated, but she should have won one. David Lynch got nominated for Best Director, and I think this film should have won every Oscar. It seriously is perfect. And the film goes through some very dark themes. I don't want to spoil it, but if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. Towards the end, when it starts going really nightmarish, the film just gradually changes in tone. Because at the beginning, just like in Blue Velvet, it was so like kind of happy and uplifting, and then as the film goes on, Naomi Watts' kind of like happy, joyful emotion just gets drained down to the, like, I'd say halfway mark. It just goes straight downhill for Naomi Watts' life. So it was really, really good. All the characters were interesting as well. So the guys in the diner were interesting to listen to. Naomi Watts' character was amazing. Laura Harring's, Justin Theroux's. Even the gangster people who are like the dwarf from Twin Peaks was in it. And even though you didn't really see much, it was still an interesting idea and an interesting perspective to listen to and just kind of see. And again, it was like David Lynch was painting the scene, because everything was just framed perfectly into some really iconic moments. And then there was two characters as well who weren't really in the film much, but they were like hitmen, and they were in 2 scenes, and that's it. But they were so just kind of memorable because of their actions, and they were just unique, really, and they were interesting characters again. David Lynch did that with every character. It was great, especially the cowboy. There's one scene with the cowboy. He literally, in that one scene, he's never mentioned again. He says something to Justin Theroux like, if you do right by me, you'll see me one more time. If you do wrong, you'll see me twice. And then he disappears into the night, and that's never mentioned again. And it was so chilling, really. It was so great. And this film is a horror movie in some aspects, and to me it is a horror movie, because when you're watching it, some scenes just kind of give me goosebumps. Like, even then when I was scratching my neck, I was like, that scene just creeped me out with the cowboy. Just the way he talked, it was just menacing, and I love that scene. And the diner scene was horrifying. Everything, really. It's just a really clever horror film that isn't a conventional horror film. So if you go into it being like, oh, it's going to be scary, it probably won't be, but just watching this thinking it was going to be like a drama, it really just kind of shocked me a bit, so I really enjoyed that. So this film does require intense concentration. You have to be focused on this movie at all times, because there's there's just scenes or little quotes of dialogue or whatever that just change the film completely, changes the meaning of the film. So if you just switch off for like a brief second, you just miss like a line of dialogue that will be brought up later in the film. You'll have no idea what it means. But to be honest, even if you do pay concentration, you're probably not going to know what it means anyway by the end of the film. And again, it's open to interpretation. Some people will like that, some people won't. For me, I love this film, and I love that kind of feeling that it is a Lynch film, and it's up to you to kind of take away what you want. So in the end, this is one of the greatest films ever. I'd probably say it's in the top 3 best made films. David Lynch is a brilliant director, and this is his most amazing film. Naomi Watts has got a best acting performance, one of the best performances of all time. Everything fits together. The entire like tone of the film just never lets up, and it gets darker as it goes on. It's a really dark movie with some really creepy, chilling scenes. So definitely recommend watching Mulholland Drive if you like David Lynch films, or films in general, really. But again, it isn't for everyone, so you might not enjoy it, and it is 2.5 hours long, which is quite long for a film. But either way, definitely just look up Something to Do with Mulholland Drive. It is that great. I definitely recommend watching it. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like below and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next video.